All right, what if I told you there's this simple, like almost invisible teaching trick that can totally unlock deeper thinking and make the classroom way more equitable? And get this, it costs nothing. No special training needed, it all just starts with a 3-second pause.
So let's kick things off with a question for you. In your average classroom, right, a teacher asks a question. How long do you think they actually wait for a student to answer? Like, what's your guess? A few seconds? 5? Okay, get ready for this, because the answer, based on decades of research, is pretty shocking. It's just 1 second. 1. That's not even enough time to blink, let alone actually think. And that is the invisible problem we're going to tackle today.
All right, here's the game plan. We're going to start by digging into this whole 1-second classroom problem. Then, we'll talk about the power of the pause and these 2 key moments called wait time 1 and 2. We'll even get into the science of why our brains need that extra beat, see how it leads to better answers and more fairness, and then wrap it all up with how you can make this productive silence, well, the new normal.
Okay, so let's dive into this 1-second classroom. What's really going on here? Well, it's this super ingrained habit, you know? A lot of times it's just because silence feels awkward, or teachers feel this pressure to just keep things moving. But no matter the reason, the result is the same. It just squashes learning.
And this isn't some newfangled idea, by the way. A researcher named Mary Budd Rowe first spotted this issue way back in the 1970s. She's the one who showed that this super fast back-and-forth pace just doesn't give most students the time they need to actually process the question and come up with a real, thoughtful answer.
So what's the fix? Well, as Rowe and a bunch of other researchers found out, it's actually incredibly simple, but man, is it effective. You just have to intentionally stretch that pause.
And boom, here it is, the magic number. Rowe's research proved that when teachers just wait for 3 seconds, or even more, something amazing happens. The quality of student answers just transforms. We're talking the difference between just spitting back a fact and actually reasoning through a problem. And this is the key mindset shift right here. We have to stop thinking of it as awkward silence. The educator Robert Stahl put it perfectly. It's not dead time, it's think time. So while the teacher is just quietly waiting, the student's brain is firing on all cylinders, thinking, reflecting, building their answer.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. This whole technique is actually a little more nuanced than just one big pause. To do it right, you've really got to think about 2 separate but equally critical moments of silence.
First up, you've got wait time 1. This is that 3-second pause you take right after you ask a question, but before you call on anybody. This is huge because it gives everyone in the room a chance to think, not just the kids who are super quick on the draw. Then you've got wait time 2. This is the pause you take after a student gives their answer. It's so powerful, it gives that student a second to add more or even fix something they said, and it gives all their classmates time to really digest the answer and think about how to build on it.
But you know, why does this simple pause work so darn well? It's not just some clever classroom trick. The power of wait time is actually hardwired into how our brains process information.
Yeah, it all comes down to something called cognitive load theory. The basic idea is that our working memory, the part of our brain that's doing the active thinking, it's kind of like a really small countertop. You can only put a few things on it at once. If you try to pile on too much, like with a really complex question, you get cognitive overload, and everything just crashes. It becomes impossible to think clearly.
Think about what the brain is trying to do in that split second. First, it has to even understand the question. Then it's got to race through its long-term memory to find all the relevant info. And then it has to stitch all that together into a sentence that actually makes sense. I mean, that's a ton of work. Wait time is just breathing room. It gives the brain the space it needs to do all those steps without completely short-circuiting. And this shows us that not all pauses are created equal, right? The pause should really match the question. If you ask a simple what is question, a factual recall thing, 3 or 4 seconds is probably fine. But if you're asking students to analyze something or evaluate it, whoa, that's a way heavier cognitive lift. That's when you need to stretch it out to 7, 10, maybe even more seconds.
So, what happens when you actually start doing this in the classroom consistently? Well, the results are, honestly, they're game-changing, not just for the quality of the learning, but for making the whole classroom feel more fair and inclusive.
So check this out, because the research found something kind of troubling. It's an unconscious bias. Teachers, without even realizing it, tend to give students they see as high performers a little more time to think, maybe 2 seconds. But for students who might be struggling, they get less than 1. We're accidentally rushing the very kids who need that processing time the most.
But here's the beautiful part. When you put in a consistent 3-second plus wait time for everybody, it completely flips the script. It's a powerful way to fight that bias. And look at the results. Student answers get longer, they get more complex, way more students volunteer, those I don't knows just start to disappear. You see more participation from everyone, and kids start talking to each other more. The whole classroom vibe shifts from this rapid-fire Q&A with the teacher to a real, thoughtful conversation among students.
Okay, so the benefits are crystal clear. But let's be real for a second. That silence, it can feel super awkward at first, for you and for the students. The trick is to make it intentional, to make it a normal, expected part of how your classroom works.
And here's the playbook, the essential 5-step routine. Step 1, ask your question to the whole class. Step 2, pause. This is your wait time 1, giving everyone time to think, at least 3 to 5 seconds. Step 3, then you call on a student. Step 4, you listen, really listen, to their whole answer. And Step 5, you pause again. That's your wait time 2. This creates that magic space for them to add more or for others to jump in. It's a simple, repeatable cycle.
And really, the #1 tip is this. Just be open about it. Don't let the silence be this weird, awkward thing. Own it. Literally say out loud, take a moment to think, or I'm going to give everyone some think time. When you narrate the silence, it stops being an empty void and becomes what it really is, a valuable, purposeful part of learning.
When you get right down to it, by just changing a 1-second reflex into a 3-second discipline, we're doing so much more than just changing the pace of a class. We're fundamentally changing the quality of the thinking that happens inside it. We're giving every single student the time they need, not just to blurt out an answer, but to actually think. So the only real question left is, what amazing ideas are just waiting for us in that silence?